It's like a little scope that packs a huge punch. Technology is taking the thermal industry into places where I didn't dream that it would have been this fast. Well done, InfiRay.
In all honesty, we get to mess with some really high-end weapon sights year over year, and this is badass. This is where it's at.
One thing I've learned about thermal companies over the past decade is they're all doing one of two things. They're either leading or they're chasing, and there's not a whole lot of in between. It always seems someone is doing the innovating, and the rest are doing their best to catch up. Ever since InfiRay Outdoor came on the scene, the world of thermal hasn't been the same since. That's a fact, and they're about to change it again with something the industry has yet to see. It's something I've been excited about for a really long time, and it's finally here. And I really think this time they've truly outdone themselves. Exactly how they do it, I honestly don't know. I just know I'm thankful to be along for the ride and get the opportunity to play with some really cool toys. Tonight was going to be the maiden voyage with the all-new InfiRay Hybrid Compact H50R. We'd spent the afternoon getting her dialed in and ready for battle and was chomping at the bit to put her to use. And to say I was just excited would be a bit of an understatement.
Oh man, InfiRay has done it again. I get excited about just about every new scope and product that they come out with. It's been a minute since I've been this excited. I'll be honest with you, the last time I think I was this excited about a scope was probably when they released the 1280, and that's been 3 or 4 years ago. But it seems like every year or two they're pushing the industry further and further and further along, making it just that much more advanced to help us out in the field be able to go and hunt and be successful. When Tyler told me they were coming out with the world's very first 10 micron thermal weapon sight, I was like, hell yeah. I feel like 10 micron is basically going to be the standard for the next 10 years in the thermal industry. But technology is taking the thermal industry into places where I didn't dream that it would have been this fast. When I found out they were coming out with this new compact, I was like, sign me up. Whatever you got to do to let me get my hands on the first 1 or 2 that you get and turn me loose.
Just like with anything new, you never really know what to expect until you actually put it to use. And this was no different. I felt pretty good about it sighting it in, but I wanted to get it in front of a pig or a coyote just to know if it was as good as I think it is. Now all we got to do is find a pig, and as if fate had a plan all along, it was as if the thermal gods stepped in and said, let's give him exactly what he's looking for right out of the gate. I think it literally took less than 20 minutes from when we left the house to find this pig. It was like it was meant to be, and that don't happen every day.
Hey, buddy. God almighty, this thing is stupid clear. Like I'm looking at a perfectly clear, smooth, it's buttery smooth looking, which I love that. I love my micro. That's the one scope I've always said if I had to give up everything, even if I had to give up a weapon sight, the micro would be the one thing that I can't live without because I use it so much. Partly because it's so small, but the image, if you haven't ever ran a micro, you need to get a micro because the image to me is the cleanest. For a thermal image, it's hard to beat. This reminds me of that. It's literally like a micro on steroids, and it's almost a 4X base mag. The thing that's so crazy about this, usually if you've got a scope with this much magnification, the lens would be twice this size. But the 10 micron thing is what keeps this so small. It's like a little scope that packs a huge punch. The biggest weakness of every scope out there, until technology gets to the point where they've got a true optical zoom like you have in a traditional day scope, is you're always confined to a digital magnification. You don't have a true optical zoom where lenses are moving back and forth. Some thermals exist that way, but they haven't gotten caught up to a weapon sight. So to me, the base mag, if you figure out what base mag you prefer, I would rather have the same base mag in a smaller package because I like a lot of mag on my scopes. I like being able to shoot coyotes at 200 and 300 yards and not have to zoom up and pixelate the image real bad before I ever get to pull the trigger. So being that this is a 3.5 power, I believe it's a 3.5 power. I may be wrong on that, but it's either a 3.5 or 4. I can just tell there's more magnification here than my Bolt, the 1024. But quite honestly, this thing may look better than my 1024. It's smoother. The very first thing I noticed is there's absolutely zero lag to this scope. So like when you're panning on a coyote or a pig running or something like that, if you're moving quick on moving targets like that, sometimes you can get like a jello effect to the frame, and a lot of that's just because the refresh rate's not fast enough to keep up. I'm gonna try to do this without everybody getting completely seasick. Usually where you can tell it is when you have trees or something straight. If it starts looking like it's bending, there is zero of that with this scope. Probably made everybody throw up by doing that, but I like it. Now let's go find a coyote.
What makes the Compact so special is it's the world's very first 10 micron thermal weapon sight. Well, if you're asking exactly what does that mean, we'll get to that a little bit later. For now, let's talk about all the other specs. This little thing is an absolute beast, so don't let its size fool you. It features a 50mm super fast f.09 lens, which is a perfect fit if you ask me. And its integrated 1200 yard laser rangefinder is super handy for those longer shots. Its newly developed 640 resolution sensor is anything but ordinary. That's where the 10 micron comes into play, but again, we'll dive more into that later. As for the 1440 by 1080 resolution AMOLED display, one can only imagine how clear that's going to be. And if you want to run it as a clip-on, you can easily flip a dedicated switch on the fly, even in the dark, without having to navigate any menus. Tell me an actual night hunter didn't come up with that. And as for power, the tried and true regular old 18650. I'd be willing to bet you probably already got a few of those laying around. So what is 10 micron? Exactly what the heck does that mean? Well, to simplify this as much as possible, there's a whole lot of science behind it regarding things like pixel pitch and sensor lingo like that most guys like myself will never fully understand. So I won't bore you with all that. I'm just going to tell you what it does and why 10 micron is an advantage over 12. Now, one would think a 12 micron is better than 10, but it's actually the reverse of that. Yes, it's a bit counterintuitive, but that's just the way it is. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the Achilles heel of every thermal weapon sight is you're always constricted to the confines of a digital magnification. It's not a true optical zoom, it's all digital. So, the true full resolution of your sensor can only be viewed at a scope's base magnification. In other words, where your magnification is at its lowest. That's your best image. Now, for any given resolution sensor, be it a 640, 1024, or even a 1280, there's only two primary things that will increase a scope's base mag, at least that I'm aware of. The first is the overall size of the objective lens. The bigger the lens, the higher your magnification will be. The problem is, there is a point where a lens is just simply too big to fit over a rifle, and you'll reach a point of diminishing return. To simplify it, the bigger the lens, the higher the scope has to sit over the barrel just to physically give it enough clearance over the barrel. That's why most of the biggest lenses out there on thermal weapon sights max out at around 75 millimeters or so. Much more than that creates a whole new set of problems. Well, here's the cool part about 10 micron. Due to pixel pitch, it increases your magnification for any given lens size. In other words, a 50 millimeter lens on a 10 micron will have more magnification than the same 50 millimeter lens on a 12 micron. That's why, or better yet, how, this scope is so small, yet it has such a high base mag. The biggest significance of this new reality we live in my opinion, is we can now have all these higher resolution scopes with a higher base mag without having to be forced to carry around a big giant lens on the front of it. What this implies is the overall size of lenses on these scopes is getting smaller, all while your magnification actually increases. I can even see a point in the future where we could be running an 8 micron InfiRay 1280 with a small 50 millimeter lens on it that's literally a 3.5 to 4 power base mag, and that's just mind-boggling. That's something that's not even comprehensible when you're stuck in a world of 12 micron reality like most other thermal companies are. Things are just changing in the world of thermal. And if you're one that doesn't like change, if you're old enough to remember the size of the original cell phones ever made, I'd be willing to bet you'd much rather be carrying around a small iPhone that'll fit in your back pocket rather than that old big relic from the past. But that's just a hunch. Heck, you had to have a bag to carry the thing in. Change is not always bad.
Well, that couldn't have worked any better.
That's crazy. Love it when they respond like that, especially early in the year. Thing had to have been hungry out here on this cut wheat, mousing around, I reckon.
Been eyeballing this pasture for the last 2 months, just waiting on them to get this field cut. And I knew there had to have been one out there somewhere.
Yeah, we've had, they're a little late getting the weed out of here, but man, when he, it was just perfect. Turned the call on and just shows up.
That's a good feeling in the summer.
Oh man, in July, it's hard to beat.
That's your first time behind the compact. What do you think?
Absolutely great scope. It seems like year over year, we get to play with these things before they're out in the marketplace, and year over year, they continue to improve. It's small, it's light, and it's almost like looking through a micro, but just so clear. It's crazy. This is the world's first 10 micron weapon sight. It's just absolutely phenomenal. They keep pushing the envelope, and I don't know how they'd make it any better. In all honesty, we get to mess with some really high-end weapon sights from, I mean, year over year, and this is badass. This is where it's at.
If you're a guy like me who prefers a smaller scope with a lot of magnification for shooting coyotes at night a long ways, I think you're the guy this scope's really made for. Whether you're a first-time buyer or just looking to upgrade, the Compact is most certainly one to consider on your next purchase. It's undoubtedly one of the coolest units we've ever got our hands on and had the opportunity to run. As for InfiRay, you guys knocked it out of the park on this one. And why am I not surprised? It seems like every year you listen to Night Hunter's feedback, our feedback. Then the next thing I hear is Tyler saying, here you go, here it is. And these aren't just simple changes or improvements. Some of them, like this one, are industry-changing creations that will set a new standard across the board, literally. 12 micron will become a thing of the past. As crazy as that sounds, technology has proven it over and over. Just like those big giant old cell phones, you don't see any companies pushing 17 micron scopes anymore. That's because 12 micron came along and said, step aside, your days are done. Well, a new standard is here. And for now, there's only one place you can get it.